The essential skills of magic. The three essential skills. All magic stands on three legs: imagination, emotion, feeling. Everything else, all the words, gestures, the implements, costumes, the elaborate circles and furniture, serve only to reinforce and focus these three capacities. If any of these three is lacking, then the work is likely to fail. Once you are skilled in using all three, you can dispense with practically all other things people sometimes insist are essential to the practice. Of the three, emotion is the power that drives the whole show. Emotion from the gut and from the heart. I will go even further. It is not just emotion, but passion that is the power behind magic. Passion is a sense of intense desire to be connected to that which you are seeking to invoke, a desire that places no restrictions or limits on the connection, but which is so one-pointed that nothing save that which is sought is included with its focus. And passion in the sense of a boundless enthusiasm for acts by which you seek to create that connection. Admittedly, this is the ideal case, but the closer you can get to it, even for a few moments, the more likely your work is to be successful. This passion for connection is what creates the magical link between the magician and that which he is invoking, or if the link already exists, expands it and strengthens it. The emotion literally creates a channel or umbilicus between them through which the energy and knowledge can flow in either direction. The stronger the emotion, the stronger the link becomes. The less energy is lost in the side thoughts and distractions, and the stronger the link becomes. Thus, a one-pointed focus is most desirable. But conversely, restrictions the magician places on the connection becomes constrictions in the link, reducing the potential flow of power through it. If a magician insists that a spiritual force or being manifests itself in a specific way, then it is less likely to appear, or the manifestation will be weaker. But if your desire for the connection is unconditional, then a response is much more likely and will be more powerful when it comes. Similarly, if a magician doing a ritual to attain money desires that money to appear in the form of a cashier's check, he is less likely to obtain that than if he was willing to accept it in any form. In its highest form, this unconditional passion becomes almost indistinguishable from what is called divine love, which is the closest that one can come within the worlds of manifestation to the transcendental state of the mother aspect of divinity. Passion for connection transforms into a state of pure relationship, pure love, in which all distinctions are erased. Both the nature of the magician and the nature of that being invoked disappear, totally lost in the link between them. Imagination provides the medium, rather an opening to the medium through which magic produces its results. The personal imagination seems to blend seamlessly into the astral light, the larger magical universe. The point at which one becomes the other is possible to define clearly. An object that begins as a purely internal construct, created and sustained by the imagination of the magician, propelled by the power of emotion, can move out into the astral light and take on a life of independent of its creator. It can gather or become a container for magical power and act back on its creator or on others in ways that are impossible for him to produce through his imagination alone. Conversely, beings and powers operating on levels the magician cannot yet perceive can make themselves known to him through his receptive imagination, opening his awareness into the realms of experience. The symbols used in magic are forms that, when created in the imagination, tend to gather specific types of power from the astral light, which are further limited by the intent of the magician. The shape of the container, in effect, determines what can be put into it. The simpler, rigidity geometric forms, such as the pentagram and the hexagram, draw relatively pure fundamental forces. Complex symbols, god forms, draw correspondingly complex assemblages of forces. When the magician projects the image of a symbol onto his surroundings, an extended magical space is created in which the astral light becomes conditioned into conformity with the symbol. The area becomes more attractive to the types of power invoked, more comfortable for magical beings having the nature represented by the symbol. The world of powers and the world of magician then intersect, making interaction possible. Feeling is the third leg of the tripod and the final key to success in magic. In order to bring into being the conditions you desire, you must create in yourself the sensations and feelings that the things you have created through your imagination are real and that the goal of the operation has already been accomplished. In the magical universe, when you act with all your being as if something is already real, it becomes real. This feeling of reality is the trigger that causes a symbol to move from the imagination into the astral light. This key to magic is simply stated, but in practice it seems to give the greatest difficulty for most people. The usual culprits are intellectual doubts. I know I'm only imagining this, and fears the various sorts. What if this makes me go crazy? Both of these have to be ruthlessly eliminated from the magician's consciousness for the duration of the operation. After the work is completely over, you can be as doubtful and fear-ridden as you want. A certain amount of doubt, of critical examination, is healthy and appropriate at that time. But during the work, you must be completely focused on feeling, not thinking, that what you create is real. Some might be concerned that this believing makes it real idea is actually a form of self-hypnosis, a way of fooling oneself by reducing the critical faculties. A genuine success in performing the ritual will dispose of this concern. At some point in the work, a threshold is crossed. The strength of the invocation produces an even stronger response from somewhere outside yourself. Events in your magical space take on a life of their own, at least partially independent of your will. And most significant, they begin to manifest an intensity, richness, and texture that is utterly impossible for you to produce through your own imagination, no matter how adept you might be in its use. Once this has been experienced, even a skeptical mind must grant that these events are real in some sense, even if not in the same way as a mundane happening. So for magic to be successful, emotion must push a link outwards into the magical universe. Imagination must aim it towards the desired goal, and feeling must affirm the reality of that which is sought. Full success will not come on the first try, for some people, not even on the 50th. It takes some time to condition the mind to the proper performance of these practices, but once a single success is attained, additional success follows at a more frequent interval. The Golden Dawn's Pentagram Ritual. The Pentagram Ritual is an excellent practice piece for developing proficiency in these three essential skills. Its physical and verbal elements are simple and easily memorized, enabling the student to give most of his attention to the visualizations and the feelings attending them. But for all its simplicity, it is capable of producing profound effects on the consciousness of the magician. Performing it also of long-term benefit, it purifies and strengthens the magician's magical body and increases his general sensitivity to events in the magical universe. Oddly, the most frequently referred descriptions of the pentagram ritual make almost no mention of its imagery and feeling components. Perhaps in the Golden Dawn and Crowley's AOA, these were expected to be the subject of verbal instruction or were simply assumed to be too obvious to mention. Regardless, it was the absence of such descriptions that prompted a student to request the elaborated version of the ritual that follows. The pentagram is a symbol whose power is partly innate and partly a matter of the magician's intent. Its natural tendency in the astral light is to attract a dynamic, active mix of these elemental forces. In contrast, the equal-armed cross attracts the same forces, but tends to keep them fixed and distinct from each other. But when the pentagram is used to invoke a specific element, the element is determined largely by the magician's habitual methods of usage and his intent of the moment. There are several methods of encoding the desired element in the way the pentagram is drawn. All of these are more or less arbitrary and depend on consistent use and practice to be effective. In modern magical systems, it is customary to associate the elements with the points of the pentagram. This set of associations derives from the Golden Dawn and was intended to reflect the positions of the elemental tables within the revised Great Table of the Enochian magical system. Had they chosen to use the original version of the Great Table, a substantially different set of associations would result. Earth would have been at the upper right point, water at the lower right, and fire at the lower left. Since the Golden Dawn associations have come into our general usage, it seems convenient to stay with them. The method of drawing, invoking, and banishing pentagrams is also arbitrary, and in this case the Golden Dawn used a method that is cumbersome, difficult to remember, and contains an undesirable dualism. To replace it, I recommend the method used by Auroram Solis, which is simple and self-consistent. To draw an invoking pentagram, draw clockwise from the point associated with the desired element. To draw a banishing pentagram, draw counterclockwise from the same point. In the Golden Dawn version of the ritual, the magician is instructed to draw a pentagram of the earth in every quarter. The theory behind this was that the element of earth serves as a container or receptacle for the other three elements. This idea seems to derive from an old interpretation in which fire, water, and air were the true elements, and earth merely something on which they acted. I feel it is more appropriate to use the pentagram of spirit. Spirit contains all the other elements within itself on an equal basis and facilitates the transformations between them that make possible activity and life in the manifest world. It is more truly generic.